the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City, to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
Hello, welcome. Welcome to Radio Free New York and WSL. I'm Kevin Wilson. I'm in for Andrew today. He is taking a day off, and he has once again entrusted me and Sean the Wildman Phelan to host Radio Free New York today. But of course, we have Bob Savage in studio as well.
Greetings all. By the way, you said WYSL. We also have to send a shout out to our friends at The Patriot down in the Twin Tiers of Elmira, Corning, Big Flats, Tioga, Pennsylvania.
And WACK as well.
WACK in Newark, AM and FM.
And all across the interwebs at Radio Free New York's Facebook page, the Andrew Hollister Facebook page, YouTube, Twitter, and our podcast. So please look for us and subscribe in those places as well. We are giving you plenty of options to be able to listen to Radio Free New York.
And if none of those work, we will come to your home and we'll entertain you on your front step.
Yes. No,
I might have made that up.
Full service show. Sean will do that. We have volunteered Sean.
I'm not safe around children.
That's good to know.
Oh boy.
As a former teacher, that's kind of dangerous.
I shouldn't be here, huh?
Yeah.
No, you need to be here.
Yeah. Bob will make sure that you stay in line. Don't worry.
Oh yeah.
So the conservative bouncer. That's me, I guess. Yeah. Excuse me, the libertarian bouncer.
The libertarian bouncer.
Are we going to talk about the most important thing today, like our color coordination?
Oh, yes. Well, for those of you on the radio, you can't see us, but we are all coordinated. We are all I'm wearing buffalo checks, so is Sean, and I'll turn the camera over, so is Bob. Bob's wearing some plaid. Yeah. Bob making a rare appearance on camera.
We're showing Buffalo Bills some respect here. You know?
Oh, yeah, now I got the Bill stuff on, too, but...
Bill cap, yep, nice.
Yeah, they're going
Bill's
to
Bill cap
tomorrow, so that's... Yeah, why not?
Big day in Buffalo tomorrow. Can you imagine the Bills making it to the Super Bowl? Can you imagine how nuts Buffalo will be?
It's going to be wild. It'll be great. I'm down for the party. Sean's a Vikings fan, so we'll just ignore it.
I follow professional football.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, all right. How's Kirk Cousins doing in Monday Night Football, buddy?
Yeah, about as good as Buffalo Bills are.
Hey, they're in the playoffs now. It's real. Super Bowl team. All right. Anyway, this is not a sports talk show, but I have to.
This is what Bob does. Is like, welcome to Sports 1170 or whatever.
You're in the jock.
That's
welcome to the jock.
Yeah. There we go. All right, but we do have some substantive topics to talk about today.
Actually, yes.
So we'll get to some of that stuff. And Governor Cuomo has given us plenty of things to talk about with his State of the State proposals. He has put out, to date, 18 proposals for what his legislative priorities are this year. And Andrew hit one of those yesterday when he talked about some of the ghost gun stuff, which, of course, will not do anything to keep New Yorkers safer. It will just make things more difficult for law-abiding gun owners.
Of course, which is that's what Andy's got in mind. Can I just say, too, this whole issue, not to jump the gun on you, if you'll pardon the expression, ghost guns, are you serious?
He is. But no, I mean, it's something done to scare people. And again, it's people being able to produce and create their own firearms. And I see nothing wrong with that. Again, I think you have a right to self-defense. I take the radical position that is something that we all have a natural right to. It's enshrined in the Second Amendment, and Governor Cuomo is consistently violating that right by making it more difficult for law-abiding people to defend themselves.
People have been able to make their own guns for years and have.
And they will continue to even after this law is passed.
Hence the word gunsmith.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, you're still going to be able to, unless they outlaw the manufacture of metal and being able to order metal pieces, you are not going to be able to. Actually, even then, they have 3D printed plastic guns.
It's
you
plastic,
can't do it. And Governor Cuomo's trying to crack down on those too. You can't.
I would like to send like an open letter out to Governor Cuomo and just say like, you're probably not aware of it, but there's this thing called the black market that occurs every time you ban or restrict something. Because it doesn't seem like he understands that exists. And that's what happens.
He likes to turn a blind eye to that because, of course, he has to be aware of the fact that 60% of cigarette sales in New York are black market.
Yeah. And there's probably going to increase too. I'm betting.
No question.
With the increase of the smoking age to 21, which happened in New York State before the federal government has done that, you're probably going to get more black market 18 to 20-year-old sales.
And black market, by the way, is not an innocuous kind of thing because we had this very interesting episode in American history called Prohibition in the 1920s when the sale, manufacture, purchase of alcoholic beverages was outlawed. And how did that work out? What that did is it gave birth to organized crime.
Yeah, exactly. It provides a lot of incentive. Suddenly, there's a lot more profit to be made. And
I wouldn't go as far as saying at birth of organized crime. Organized crime's been in existence for millennia. But
well, as we know, modern organized crime.
The modern version of it. Yes, I can understand that. But I mean, they were running the alcohol, the moonshine through Georgia and Alabama and all that stuff, to the pre-NASCAR days, and so, I mean, this has been going on for years and years and years, but
it just creates a lot more incentive for greater organized crime, for greater violence.
Absolutely.
So it just creates a lot of bad.
If Cuomo would just take his plans that like restrict everything and reverse them, because it seems like all he does is kill jobs and take away freedoms. If he would do the complete opposite, then he'd create jobs and create more freedom.
No, we can't have that because he can't control it. This is the Democrat playbook, the liberal left-wing playbook. Is they're always all about taking away freedoms, taking things away from you, lessening choice, running up costs, increasing government meddling.
Yes, all for our own good, Bob. Don't worry, it's gonna be fine.
I wouldn't limit that to the liberal side at all.
Oh no, you're right about that. Totally right about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides to this coin, and they're both as hard.
Yeah,
crony capitalism on the Republican side, just as bad.
Yep, lots of control there too. So, but we do have this legislative agenda. So there are 18 proposals. We'll talk about a couple of those here. Let's see. The first proposal is actually preventing individuals who committed serious crime in another state from owning a gun in New York, which actually I thought that again, this may be something we need Andrew to talk about more, because I thought that was covered by like the NICS check. Is in theory that's supposed to be covered by that, isn't it? Or was that not it?
The NICS check was supposed to fulfill this role
of if someone has committed a violent crime, you shouldn't.
Yes, that's the background. That's the national background check, which of course has been hobbled historically by the fact that it's had very uneven implementation in many states. One of the chief offenders being New York.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So just interesting that's one of the proposals there. But second one is banning fentanyl analogs to further combat the opioid epidemic.
Isn't fentanyl, the unlicensed possession and sale of fentanyl illegal already?
Yep.
I think.
Yes, it is.
It already is.
It is, in fact, already illegal. So I don't know what making other synthetic versions of fentanyl that are already illegal to possess and distribute is going to do. How is making it more of a crime going to help this? Because, again, people who are addicted are probably still going to buy it, and there's still going to be a market for it, and that doesn't really solve the underlying issue. It's one of those things where they want to look like they're doing something.
Can I just point out a fun fact here before we go to break too about fentanyl? Now we have this interesting thing going on in New York called bail reform, which is the elimination of cash bail for most offenses. And we had a guy by the name of Taekwon Rivera. You may remember him, of age 14, shot Officer Anthony DePonzio 10 years ago, went to the clink at age 14 for 10 years, got out. What's the first thing he did when he got out, allegedly? We have to throw that in there. Sold fentanyl to an undercover officer, and now this little cop shooter is walking free. Thanks.
So Bob, I'm going to, instead of dwelling on that topic, because I do want to talk about that, I promised Andrew I would not talk about it until our Tuesday show. Show, we are talking about bail reform, and we are going to talk about that case specifically.
I blew it, folks. Sorry about that.
No, it's a good segue. It's a good teaser.
Bad
so Tuesday, guys, tune in Tuesday. Andrew and I are going to be talking about criminal justice reform, what bail reform means, what the defense discovery stuff means, all that stuff, how it applies in local cases. Make sure you tune in for that Tuesday here on Radio Free New York.
All right. Kevin and Sean and yours truly back in just a moment. I promise I'll stop misbehaving. I'll be back in a minute.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Hi, Bob Savage here for the WYSL station. So times are tight, and you've got to watch every penny. How to get maximum advertising impact without shelling out maximum bucks? Well, there's print media. Of course, there's a reason why it's called the incredible shrinking daily paper. Then there are those penny savers and shoppers, 98% of which hit the recycling bin without ever being opened. And are you really looking for customers who are shopping for used tires and playpens? You could try cable TV, 500 channels, 12 viewers per channel. Or how about hiring some guy in a day-glow orange wig to dance holding up your sign down at the corner? If you want real advertising impact with a quality message for savvy consumers who actually have money to spend, WYSL has a giant 20,000-watt signal and 2 FM channels at 92.1 and 95.5, covering 1.4 million people all over Rochester and the region, literally all the way to Pennsylvania. Get results, save time and money. Call us, get on board, and start growing for 2020. 346-3000 or WYSL1040.com.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind. Or updating your website, they're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, we're back here on Radio Free New York. You're in studio with Kevin Wilson. I'm in hosting today. We have Sean Phelan and, of course, Bob Savage, as always. And we're talking about some of Governor Cuomo's proposals for 2020. And we were talking about criminal justice reform just briefly. But again, we're going to talk about that on Tuesday. Listen in for our Tuesday show. Andrew and I are going to be talking about bail reform, evidence discovery, all that stuff. Listen in on that. So some of these other proposals, Sean, did you have a favorite one that you were looking at that you wanted to talk about?
Well, the net neutrality one is the one that really struck me. Is the one that, like...
Proposal number 7, advancing the strongest net neutrality protections in the United States.
And the irony is, if you clicked on the link, it's a dead link.
I was like, wait, this ain't working. It's missing, I thought it was me.
It's missing the H in front of the HTTP part. So put the H in and you'll get to the page. Which
all right.
I think is really funny considering it's the net neutrality page. So,
all right. The governor's office is figuring out how to internet, but they're going to tell us how the internet ought to be run.
Yeah.
Either way.
Right.
So they want to. So net neutrality. If you don't know what it is, it basically it prohibits internet service providers from being able to charge different rates for like bandwidth
or manipulate
or manipulate speeds depending on like the type of content that you're using, right?
And also content,
right? And so what it does in theory is prevent internet service providers from favoring one company or another. That's the goal of net neutrality. Is they can't say, well, we don't like this one company, so we're going to throttle their speeds. Net neutrality says, no, you have to provide equal service to everyone. Now, the problem with that is that there are some companies that do take up a huge amount of the bandwidth, and under a net neutrality scheme, they can't really be charged any extra for that. So companies like Netflix or Hulu that take up a huge amount of like the internet capacity that we have built into our infrastructure, they pay essentially the same rate as anyone else. Your small website that's taking up a smaller amount, it's metered at the same rate. So net neutrality, but we've eliminated it on the federal level. The FCC got rid of it. They were promising 2 years ago that it would mean the end of the internet as we know it. Like, man, if we leave this to the free market, everything's going to be terrible and awful, and you won't be able to get the services that you want anymore. And they're saying that Twitter was going to be shut down and all this stuff. None of that happened. It's all going to be okay.
Wonder about that.
Yeah, because the internet service providers want to be able to provide good service to the customers. If they throttle our favorite websites, there's enough other options in many places that you can go somewhere else. I live in an area where there are at least 3 internet service providers, possibly 4, and I'm able to switch between providers if they're providing me bad service, and I can shop around on price, and I can shop around on quality.
So what you're saying, Kevin, if I'm getting this right, is you're saying like free market capitalism actually typically comes up with better solutions than top-down government authoritarianism?
That is what I'm saying, Bob. It's exactly what I'm saying. And, again, there's this desire to control everything. There's desire and if I'm being generous, it could be well-meaning. Like, we don't want this bad stuff to happen, and the only way to stop this bad stuff from happening is if the government does something about it. And it's a lack of imagination, too, right? It's like they can't imagine a world in which if the government isn't putting their hands on it, then no good outcomes will emerge out of a free market order. That if we're not controlling it, then we can only get bad outcomes, and these rapacious companies will just come in and take advantage of people, and they won't be able to get their internet, and they won't be able to get these services that we need, and it's going to crash the economy. And that hasn't borne out. And despite the fact in the last 2 years, the internet's been just fine, Governor Cuomo is proposing this new legislation to do this, to institute net neutrality protections in New York State, and also do things like invest more in broadband access in New York State, which I do want to talk about a little bit. Because I've seen this proposal coming a lot from progressives and even from conservatives too. Like way back in like 2012, I heard conservatives talking about we need more broadband infrastructure in the rural parts of New York State, particularly where I lived in. It was way over when Claudia Tenney was an assemblywoman over there in her district. Like Republicans in that area are pushing for it because you couldn't get much internet. Now the thing is that by the time the state makes this investment, I'm betting it's going to be obsolete. By the time they lay this fiber and they build everything out, and it's going to cost a lot of money, and the cable companies and the internet companies are hesitant to do this because it's like, what do you lay like 10 miles of fiber to serve like 3 houses? It's difficult to make that investment. But in the next 10 years, I'm betting we're going to have satellite internet that's going to make that type of service obsolete. So by the time that the state builds this infrastructure, the free market will have moved fast enough to outpace what the state is investing. And I think it's going to be a big waste of money, and we're going to be stuck with the bill for it. That's what always happens.
Well, if they use the high-speed rail, and use that rail as the conduit,
Right, exactly.
for the high-speed internet. Because, that's a steel bar, that'll carry a lot of bandwidth.
Or just run the cables underneath. Yes, and I know you're switching topics now to the high-speed rail proposal that Governor Cuomo is also putting out there.
What is the most ironic thing that you found reading that part?
The high-speed rail proposal?
Yeah, what was the most ironic thing you found there?
Well, I don't know. Tell me about it.
I found that it's not the rail itself. It's just a proposition to start looking at making one.
Yeah, well, it's a study for high-speed rail.
That's all it is.
Oh, like the Southern California train to nowhere.
Yeah, which they ended up canceling that project, didn't they? I think
I think it's still there.
It's still.
I think they're trying to. There's a debate about scaling it back because, of course, the cost overruns have been
probably
obscene. I think.
It kills me because, all right, part of me, I really like rail systems, and I know when I've been in Europe, when I was studying abroad in Berlin, when I've gone and visit, there are rail systems over there where you can get from town to town. It's easy. It's relatively inexpensive. It's kind of nice, right? And I always think, man, we do subsidize the heck out of roads too. But in the United States, the cost per mile for building rail anywhere, but especially in New York State, is so astronomically high that the economics don't make any sense. Even in countries like France, where they have heavy unionization, they're basically a socialist country, it's far, far cheaper to build a mile of rail there than it is to build it in the United States. Why on earth is it so dang expensive to do?
Well, isn't it also a function of the population density too? Because European countries are on the order of, I don't know, like population density 100 times greater than the U.S. So the usage is much greater potentially.
But even in New York City, right? Which has its own special considerations to keep in mind. But when you compare New York City, building a mile of rail in New York City, light rail, metro systems, to building a mile in Paris or Berlin, it's far, far more expensive to build it in those cities. And part of it's just because of the way unions have control over it. It's part of it is the regulations, the safety and environmental concerns that don't necessarily keep people more safe, but certainly add a lot of compliance costs.
No question about
it. They're operating safer.
You would think that the landscape in Europe would be littered with bodies and people maimed and killed by routine, constant malfunctions because of inferior construction. Somehow I'm missing those news stories.
No, and it's funny, when you look at freedom indexes of some of the European countries, they have higher freedom indexes on some economic factors than the United States for that reason, though. It's they regulate less. They have a greater distributed welfare state, but in terms of letting the economy operate unharassed.
Laissez-faire.
Yeah, a little bit more laissez-faire. A few of the countries Denmark and...
Laissez-faire is just in France, though.
Just in France. It's just called something. See what you did there. But so anyway, getting back to the merits of the proposal, though, most of the criticism I've seen of the high-speed rail is that it just wouldn't be used at a scale great enough in upstate New York to really justify its existence, right? We have a three-way system. We built a culture where most people have cars, and I don't know if you've ever taken a rail to New York City. I've taken the train from Rochester and Utica down to New York. It's fine, but it takes 10 hours.
It's forever.
Yeah,
I like the train. I've taken it from Rochester, especially with the swell new station that they built to replace the identical one they tore down in the 60s.
Yep.
You're right. I mean, it just takes for freaking ever to get to New York.
Yeah, so it takes a long time. It's more expensive. Most of the time I can find cheaper flights from Rochester to New York and go down, which I mean... So I wish that there was a better rail system in New York State, but also I don't know how we could justify in any sense building the system that's going to cost probably hundreds of billions of dollars to construct for what would only be a tiny amount of traffic. And I think Governor Cuomo's argument is well, if we build it, people will start using it. No, I don't think that people will use it unless you make it more expensive or difficult to take the throughway or to fly.
I think he needs to take a look at the internet and put Rochester fast ferry in, and then get an education about that philosophy.
Yeah, just because you build it does not mean
they'll come.
They will come. So
that only works in the movies.
Yeah,
with Kevin Costner's baseball field,
and you have to get whispered by ghosts and
stuff. There's a lot involved.
So we don't know that there's not ghosts whispering in Governor Cuomo's ear.
Because I know Cuomo's got some daddy issues, So,
but and this is something. In fact, the rail project is something that Mario Cuomo tried to do a long time ago. They did studies that cost a ton of money, and all we've done so far is dump millions of dollars into studying an issue that still has not happened. So thank you, New York, for that. We'll be back in just a few minutes here on Radio Free New York. Talk to you in a few.
Twice the power. WYSL. More powerful FM 92.1, FM 95.5 West, and 1040 AM WYSL Avon Rochester.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center. Today, we're looking at scattered rain showers throughout the region. Temperatures in the upper 40s for the high for today. Tomorrow, we'll see some light to moderate snowfall move through the region. We're looking at temperatures back into the 30s for tomorrow. Showers will start in the morning hours and then last into the afternoon, start to taper off by the evening. Still a few flurries in the forecast for Sunday, temperatures in the 30s. This is Samantha LaRocca for WYSL.
WYSL with a little food for thought. We are one election away from open borders, socialism, gun confiscation, and full-term abortion nationally. We're fighting evil. Let that sink in.
Did Mom leave the stove on again? Dad forget to take his pills? The senior citizen in your life deserves to be treated like family in every way. And you deserve the peace of mind that comes from knowing your older family member is getting personalized care, even though they're not yet ready for a nursing home. Consider Alpine Manor, founded in 1971 by owner Tim Kinsella, and just 20 minutes from Rochester in Lima, Livingston County. At Alpine Manor, there are supervised activities and medications, full laundry and housekeeping services provided to your loved one in immaculate surroundings. You can move to warmer regions secure in the knowledge that your loved one is well cared for back at home. You could qualify for $1,830 per month VA benefits or $1,176 per month for a surviving spouse. Alpine Manor, New York State Health Department licensed. Call 346-5880 for a no-obligation tour or information, or visit alpinemanor.com.
Compass Care believes all people are created in the image of God and are equally valuable. A woman considers abortion because she feels trapped, like abortion is her only choice. She says, "I need to have an abortion." Compass Care's mission is to erase the need for abortion in her mind by dignifying her with the ethical medical care and community support she deserves. Empowering her in this way gives her the ability to say no to abortion. New York is the abortion capital of the United States, forcing pro-life employers and medical professionals to carry the toxic water of their inhumane beliefs. Compass Care stands with women through service and now against the unjust coercive power of government through a lawsuit. Please consider expressing your pro-life convictions with a donation to launch Compass Care into a strong 2020. This Real Abortion News Update is sponsored by Compass Care. For a full transcript, go to realabortionnews.com.
Because your future is worth it. MGM Associates Insurance. Proudly serving the region since 1984, MGM can meet your coverage needs, ranging from home, condo, and auto, all the way to specialized policies for business, workers' comp, to limo and taxi insurance, and coverage for tech professionals like IT specialists. They can also help lead you through the confusing maze in the new world of health insurance coverage and options. MGM Associates is large enough to serve you, but small enough to care, so you don't have to line on some 800 number to get prompt personal attention. MGM Associates is the only winner of the National
I just talked to him
6 times in a row. MGM is proud to support veterans groups.
Yeah, I was on the phone with him for a good 5 or 10 minutes.
Professional insurance needs. Meet the professionals at MGM Associates Insurance, locally and proudly owned at 1745 Penfield Road in Penfield. 381-7.
Yeah, he can get us a new receiver, but the tricky thing is the dish will need to get updated, so he's got to figure out how to finesse it with dish.
From
or DirecTV.
Space to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Livingston
Last spot.
Main Street Avon welcomes new patients of all ages. Stop in and see the newly remodeled optical department with new frames for everyone in the family. Make 2020 the year you see clearer. Livingston Eye Care, East Main Street Avon. Call 226-3400.
Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm Kevin Wilson in studio today for Andrew, who is taking the day off. And of course, we have Sean Phelan in studio as well. And as always, Bob Savage.
And we also have you, if you'd like to call in at 585-346-3000. Love to have you join us.
Absolutely. Tell us what your favorite or least favorite proposal that Governor Cuomo is putting out. And tell us why. We'd love to hear about it. So I do want to talk about two of the proposals that I think I actually like. I think that there's a couple of good ones in here. So Governor Cuomo's 16th proposal is legalizing gestational surrogacy. So
yeah, I had no idea that was illegal.
Yeah, no. So it is illegal in New York State to make a contract to kind of have a someone else's baby, right? To have they could do like a we call it artificial insemination type thing, and then have that egg implanted in another person who can carry that baby to term. And in New York State, it's illegal to be paid for that. So in some other states, you can be paid tens of thousands of dollars to have this process done but for couples who can't have their own children, this can be a really important thing.
Yes.
And I've known people who've done this, and they can do unpaid contracts, or what happens sometimes too is kind of under a table contracts that
you mean a black market style?
Black market style, right? So that just means that if something goes wrong or someone reneges under the deal to pay, then you don't really have the ability to take someone to court over that. But the governor has proposed allowing this to happen, which I think is a nice thing. So it'll lift and this is from the proposal on the governor's website. It says, lifts the state's harmful ban on gestational surrogacy. Under current law, paid surrogacy is punishable by fine, and unpaid surrogacy agreements are unenforceable and not legally binding. And I think the reason why this was banned for so long is part of the reason I've heard from the progressive side is they felt that this would somehow take advantage of people in poverty, that people in poverty would be incentivized to have children and have these contracts, and that would somehow be harmful.
That's kind of what I was first thinking. I was like, wow, rent a uterus.
Yeah. Well, but to me, it's just like, well, if someone wants to do that, then why should I? What right does the government have to stop them? This could be something that it could triple their income over the year, and they can continue working in some cases. Why not allow people the freedom to do this?
Freedom. See, freedom. You said that word again.
Yeah, exactly. It's what you kind of hit me with. It's like, yeah, we should have the freedoms to do this and so much more.
Yeah.
But nanny state wants to, tell us what to do with our bodies and how to do it. And
right. So yeah, they want to I think if you want to be able to do this, if you are a woman who is like, I want to be able to make, $20,000 doing this thing, and it's important to me, and this would help my family or help them personally, and it would help this other couple who needs to, wants to have a child, then great. And I mean, it's interesting how like Governor Cuomo has proposed this as like an LGBT thing, even though and that is important for this process too. But it is hetero couples as well.
Yeah, why would it be strictly LGBTQ?
Yeah, so I mean that's
or even disproportionately. You know?
I think it's a strategic thing that Governor Cuomo is like, well, if I say that this is the reason that this is to benefit LGBT couples, then people would be more likely to support it within the Democratic Party.
Like a buzzword, you mean? Huh?
Exactly. No, I'm almost certain that's what this is, because this is something, again, hetero couples have been fighting for a while too, who aren't able to conceive on their own. Now, I'm going to be very curious to see like what the contract arrangements are going to be allowed under this system, because Governor Cuomo is, of course, not going to let people just do this and make their own agreements that make sense to them. No, there's going to be a surrogate's bill of rights that's going to I'll just read this off, which will guarantee the strongest protections in the nation for surrogates, ensuring the unfettered right of surrogates to make their own healthcare decisions, including whether to terminate or continue a pregnancy, and that surrogates have access to comprehensive health insurance and independent legal counsel of their choosing, all paid for by the intended parents. And then it goes on to say a few other things like different protections, and reducing barriers for second parent adoption as well. So all that's going to be in there. And, you know, again, I think overall this is probably a good thing.
Anything in there about taxes and fees, if you'll pardon my being a little cynical?
Oh, I'm sure it's in there. It's just not.
Yeah, it's not. This is the nice part of this is like sunshine and rainbows part of the proposal. There will probably be a tax that will somehow pay for this. And in fact, in New York State, it's interesting because like conception help is already mandated by New York State health insurance. So I'm curious if this will get lumped into that if health insurance companies will now be required to support this in some way, which will, of course, make our healthcare costs go up even more. So we'll see.
Six times the next most expensive state of Medicaid isn't high enough, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. We got to crank that up some more.
Yeah, devil's in the details with all this stuff. Like upon first inspection, this seems like a good direction. Again, I think that you own your own body, and if you want to make a decision about doing that, that's fine. And I say the same thing. Progressives get all like icky about like, you shouldn't be able to go and get paid for donating blood. You know, you should, or not donate, but selling your blood. You shouldn't be able to sell your bodily fluid. And I'm like, well, why not? If that's what you want to do and you're able to do it and they want to take it, then great. That's an extra source of income. Why should I stop someone from doing that? Go do your own thing. It is your body. It is your blood. If you want to sell your blood, that is your business, not mine.
Well, like I said, watch out for the details, because what we'll find out later on is you can only do surrogacy while traveling on a high-speed train.
Yep. See, that's the rule.
Paying your taxes simultaneously.
Yeah. No.
In advance.
Yeah, you got to pay your tax ahead of time, be on a high-speed train, no vaping.
Yeah, no vaping.
And do some sports betting while you're at it. Yeah.
All right. Actually, the other proposal that I like from Governor Cuomo, that, again, the devil's going to be in the details, but I like it because it's similar to what Larry Sharp had proposed, and it says that
regulate it like onions?
No.
Oh, darn it.
No, I wish. No, it is increasing transparency in healthcare costs.
Oh, yeah.
So, again, this is something that is similar to what Larry had proposed. Larry Sharp, the Libertarian candidate for governor, him and Andrew were proposing having hospitals disclose all of their healthcare costs, right? Because right now, you can show up to a hospital for a procedure, even if it's a planned procedure, and not really understand what it's going to cost you. You don't understand what's going to cost you out of pocket. You don't understand what's going to cost your insurance company. There is no transparency in any part of this process. So what ends up happening is that a lot of those costs end up being hidden, and then we wonder why healthcare costs so much. It's because the system's kind of rigged. The system's so hidden.
Kinda?
Yeah, kind of. No, extremely rigged.
Yes.
The system's rigged. And that's what ends up happening, though, is that, you go in and you need a surgery done. You can't really shop around at different hospitals in your area to determine, like, all right, well, where's the surgery going to be least expensive? Well, maybe I don't want to go to this one hospital where it's going to be $100. I don't know if I trust that, but like this other place is $1,000 and this other place is $5,000. Maybe the $1,000 hospital is the place where I want to go. You want to be able to shop around, understand like the quality of the care that your doctor's going to be providing, and then be able to make an informed choice on what your healthcare decisions are. Right now, you can't do that. You can only go where, wherever your health insurer says you can go, and then you don't really know what the cost is. And then suddenly, 2 months later, you get a bill and you're like, oh, well, I didn't realize I was going to have to pay $2,000 out of pocket, and that this actually cost the insurance company $20,000. What happened? And then, again, you don't see that $20,000. You don't pay for that, but it does show up in your premiums.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no supply and demand price control mechanism in our healthcare system. So what this does, in theory, is it forces hospitals and other healthcare providers to disclose what the cost is going to be to consumers.
I think independent hospitals would be smart if they put a web page together with like a menu.
Yeah,
you could go, breast implants, tummy tuck, look how much that is. And
for some of those services that fall outside of typical insurance, like LASIK, like some plastic surgeries, things like that, you do get to see the pricing options because they're not obscured by the insurance system. So you're able to have some transparency in that, and you're able to see, like, what am I actually paying for this? Can I shop around? Do I need this?
Can I afford it?
Yeah. All right, so we're coming up on another break. We'll be back for our last segment of the show. We'll move on to Fake News Friday. Thanks for joining us here on Radio Free New York.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Aircraft Environmental Systems proudly supports Radio Free New York. Rochester-based leaders in climate simulation chambers for America's R&D laboratories. We're experts in troubleshooting, calibrations, custom designs, and consulting for more than 40 years. Industry pioneers, we created the first ever fleet of temperature, humidity, and altitude test chambers available to rent coast to coast. Trained and trusted by environmental chamber manufacturers, we are ACES. Find us at acesinc.com.
Human trafficking is when someone is being forced, tricked, or coerced to engage in a sex trade or forced labor. If you're a kid and forced to sell sex, drugs, or work against your will, that's trafficking. You're not a criminal, and there is help available. Call the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 888-373-7888 or text Be Free. Sponsored by the Livingston County Safe Harbors Human Trafficking Task Force.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
It's Fake News Friday. Once again, here's Kevin Wilson at the anchor desk.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. It is Fake News Friday. which is our segment that we do every week where we try to stump each other with news items that may or may not be fake news. All right, I will go first. I found a fun one that I saw shared around at a few different places. Are Impossible Burgers giving men boobs? Fake news or not? Impossible Burgers, the assertion is Impossible Burgers are giving men breasts.
All right, I do know that, like, one of the side effects of marijuana, habitual marijuana usage is that. Okay.
All right.
There's pot in Impossible Burgers?
But yeah, if there's pot in Impossible Burgers, then that would be one heck of an Impossible
All right,
Burger.
I need to stop at Wegmans.
Yeah, really. No, I'd say it's fake news simply for the fact that it hasn't been out long enough for people to like make that kind of notice of it. You know.
All right.
It might be the long-term effects, but I don't think it's been out long enough to.
All right, what do you think, Bob?
I think the potential is there for that to happen because I did see a news story to the effect that there's a tremendous amount of estrogen. Is it? That's in the ingredients of the Impossible Burger.
Yeah, so I that's what I saw first, right? Is I saw that there was estrogen in the ingredients of the Impossible Burger, and therefore that's what would cause for men to grow breasts and to feminize.
Who's inventing this? Saying like, you know what, this burger's a little off. You know what it needs? It needs a little estrogen.
Makes it taste better.
No. That's the assertion that I saw, so I went to fact check that because I'm like, all right, great, this is going to make a great fake news item. So I looked it up though, and the answer is no, not exactly. And what happens is that soy-based products do contain these things called isoflavones.
Flavonoids?
Yeah. So and then in that chemical can sort of act like estrogen in certain contexts. But the percentage of that's in most soy-based foods, but especially in Impossible Burgers, which have a lot of different ingredients, is so low that it doesn't really do all that much. So there's like a little tiny kernel of truth to it, but mostly Impossible Burgers are fine.
It's like 20 times higher than what you get in a typical hamburger, but that's not significant if the amount of estrogen that exists in typical hamburgers and true hamburgers is negligible.
Yeah.
So it's 20 times, nothing is nothing.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to say, because that's the stat I saw too. Is like, oh, it's 20 times higher than what you'd get in normal beef. I'm like, okay, yeah, but how much is in normal beef?
And also, estrogen does not necessarily result in breast growth, I don't think.
No. I mean,
especially in guys.
Yeah,
we have this thing called testosterone that's going on.
Exactly. You'd have to consume a lot of it.
Yeah,
and there's not enough.
Calculating in my head, I'm like, how much do you have to actually consume for that to have any effect whatsoever? And I'm also thinking, why wouldn't stomach acids kind of neutralize it?
Yeah, well, so here's part of the story that I'm reading is Ars Technica says, in particular, the fear of men growing breasts from soy consumption was highlighted in a 2008 case report in which a 6-year-old man developed benign swelling of male breast tissue and elevated estrogen levels.
A 6-year-old man.
60-year-old man. Okay. Doctors reported that the man consumed a whopping 3 quarts of soy milk a day. So he was drinking a lot of soy milk, and it had some effects on him. But if you're eating an Impossible Burger every once in a while, it's probably not going to do that. And Impossible Burgers, by the way, are not healthy for you. They are just as bad for you, possibly even worse than a regular hamburger, because turns out fat and salt is what makes things taste good. So Impossible Burgers, great, but it's probably not gonna give you man boobs unless you're consuming just a ridiculous amount of them, and then you have other problems. All right, that's my first fake news. Well, you go.
I got one.
All right, go ahead. Tell us. Just look up Florida Man.
Yeah, Florida Man? No, not Florida Man. Today, Nancy Pelosi issued a statement that she is in support of Trump's assassination of the Iraqi general.
Damn, maybe. It seems like something Democrats would do.
What do you think, Bob?
I can't imagine her giving credit to Trump for anything that might reflect positively. I'm thinking that's false.
You're correct, because she does not agree with anything Trump does. So,
by definition.
Yeah. Did she say Trump is wrong in this because he's a Republican, and had President Obama done this, he would have done it better? And
Probably.
Yeah, kind of. No, I was listening to some of that on the radio this morning, and some of the criticism was like, yeah, we don't have a problem with Donald Trump assassinating this guy. We just think that he probably doesn't have a plan. Like, if we had had someone else in office, they would have had a plan around this. I'm like, really? That's your objection to this? Like, I think there's a good reason to do this, but yeah, I don't agree with it. I don't think we have time to cover this topic in detail, and I'm still learning about it.
Yeah, we're supposed to have in place a detailed plan for every eventuality. Like we're supposed to be able to look in the crystal ball and know that the embassy in Baghdad's going to be sacked. I think that might be a little difficult to plan ahead for. You have to. Sometimes foreign policy is necessarily reactionary.
Yeah, it is, and I get it as a reaction to another event, but I think there's a fair criticism to be made that this could possibly be an act of war without congressional approval against a power that has been agitating against us. But this is a pretty serious escalation. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that next week, or Andrew will dive into it. I still don't feel informed enough to kind of draw my own conclusions. I'm just
not to get too far into it, but he doesn't need congressional approval. He's the commander in chief. If he decides that something's got to happen,
to go to war,
to go to war, to declare war, sure.
Yeah. Well, I think that we only have 5 minutes left. I can debate you on whether or not I think the presidential power should be limited quite a bit, and I guess you don't. But
I think congressional power should be limited,
or not congressional, but executive power should be limited.
All government power should be limited.
Well, now we can all agree on that.
Good. All right, we're all on the same page again. Perfect. Okay, speaking of saying things that may or may not have been taken out of context, did Joe Biden make a racist remark at a recent campaign rally?
Yes.
Sean says yes.
Yes. Did he make a racist? Yes, he makes. Yeah, he's a fool.
Probably.
He says ridiculous things.
Just because
ridiculous
that's in Joe Biden's MO.
That's his MO. Yes.
Well, an element of every crime is intent, and I think that Joe's old crotchety cranium is probably too empty to be able to form much intent on any of these things. So I'm going to say no, false.
Yeah. So it's one of those. Again, there's sort of a kernel of truth to it. What happened is a video went out earlier this week that was selectively edited that made it look like Joe Biden was saying something when he wasn't really saying something. So the quote that went around was he was talking about sexual assault on college campuses. And he said, folks, this is about changing the culture. Our culture is not imported from some African nation or some Asian nation. It is our English jurisprudential culture, our European culture that says it's all right. And he was saying that English culture was responsible for campus rape, which that's bold assertion. But the clip that got edited was just saying our culture is not imported from some African nation or some Asian nation, and that was all that went out. And so people on the left freaked out. Look, Joe Biden's a racist. He's saying our culture doesn't come from Africa or Asia.
Is Joe Biden an elderly white male?
Yeah,
then he's racist according to liberals.
Yeah, by definition, yeah.
Yeah, there's a group of people that there's nothing that you could say that could disprove that point. And then he said that, and that confirmed in their minds the bias that they already had against Joe Biden, who I think deserves much of the criticism that he gets. And I don't even quite know how to unpack what he says now. I don't know that English common law. His criticism is that English common law allows for sexual assault without consequences, which.
English common law allows what?
Yeah, as in the system in which most American law is based off of saying like going way back when it allows for sexual assault and rape without consequence, which I think that's debatable.
Debatable,
to put it lightly.
Yeah, for like 8 or 10 seconds.
Yeah,
like dismissing it as totally absurd.
Yeah,
well, like what's an example of an English case that okayed sexual assault? I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, his assertion is that the bar of evidence is too high in English common law, which no, I'm gonna say no.
Says the guy with his hands like he is.
yeah, Uncle Feely.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's it for Fake News Friday. Thank you everyone for joining us here on Radio Free New York. Andrew will be back in Monday.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Bob.
This is Dom Genova, owner of Genesee Valley Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Avon, your no-nonsense car dealer. With my new